Okay, I'm back. Hello again, everyone. My name is Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I teach immigration consulting at Ashton College. I'm the author of the bestseller book, 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada. You can find out your purchasing options by visiting 88tips.ca or any Amazon website. And on Sundays, we go live and I try to give you some updates about what's going on in the world of immigration. And if you have any questions, answer your questions. Today, Sunday, May 9th, 2021, we had some internet connection issues. I tried to fix them, so hopefully the problems are fixed and we can continue this live session. So to begin with, good morning, Rochelle. To begin with, so if you have any questions, post the questions in the chat area and I'll answer them one by one. Don't worry if I don't answer them immediately. Let me just go through some of the updates and then we go from there. So if you remember, in April, the government of Canada introduced a new program for temporary residents of Canada, calling them TR to PR pathway, which enables those people that are temporary residents in Canada to become permanent residents. There are three major groups for that type of application. The first group is people that are active in healthcare. They are working in the field of healthcare, and in the past 3 years, they have at least 1 year of work experience in the area of healthcare. The second group is for people that are active in the field of essential works, and they have a list of different kinds of work activities that are considered essential. And the third group are international students. They started accepting an application on May 6, 2021, and they will end accepting applications on November 5th, 2021. However, each program has a cap, and as soon as they reach the cap, they will stop accepting applications under that group. For the healthcare workers, the gap is 20,000, and so far, a lot less than 20,000 people have applied. And actually, let me just pull the statistics for you and give you an update. So under the healthcare program, 1,026 people so far applied. So we still have close to 19,000 open applications. If you want to apply and you qualify, you still have time to apply. For the essential workers, we have a cap of 30,000, and so far 6,839 people have applied. So about, roughly speaking, about 23,000 more spots are available. So probably with the essential works, hopefully we will see at least 2 or 3 more weeks before we reach the gap. Maybe even by the end of June, we will reach the gap. Let's wait and see. For the international stream, the cap was 40,000, and unfortunately, that cap reached in about 26 hours from the time that they opened the applications. So they won't accept applications under that group anymore. However, if you're Francophone, the same programs are available to you with no cap. So it means that at any point of time from now until November 5th, 2021, if you meet the requirements of the application, then you can apply, and that's amazing news. So basically, it means that you may apply as soon as you have your test results. Now, in terms of test results for Francophones, if you're applying as an essential worker or if you're applying as a healthcare worker, the minimum requirements is you need to take TEF Canada or TCF Canada, and your test results needs to be equivalent to NCLC or CLB 4 or higher under every skill. And then if you're applying as an international student, you need to have the test results of NCLC or CLB 5 under every skill. But however, this will be open to you if you know French. So, for example, if you are an international student and you don't have the French test results, but you know French, and you know that the cap has reached for international students, just go take your French test, and if you get acceptable results, then you may apply as an international student, but a francophone one. Now, there are some details in terms of who qualifies. I don't want to take more time on this, but you can visit our website, settler.ca. I have already written an article about these programs and who qualifies for each of them. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just post your questions, and as soon as I'm done, I will come back to you and I will answer your questions. Don't worry. So in terms of the other activities in the world of immigration, there's not much going on. Unfortunately, with the escalating situation in India and Pakistan, the visa offices over there are not active right now. And because of that, we'll face some delays with our Indian clients and Pakistani clients and applicants. And also the processing time in outside Canada, in visa posts and visa offices outside Canada are very slow, most of them, with some exceptions. And that's why if you have submitted an application for immigration to Canada, visa to Canada, work permit to Canada, study permit to Canada, expect significant delays because of coronavirus. Of course, Canada is rolling out vaccination heavily. They actually vaccinated a big portion of Canadians they have received their first vaccination, and hopefully by midsummer, majority of Canadians have received their second dose of vaccination as well. This means that hopefully we will see some relief in terms of opening businesses and hopefully opening the border. And if we see the border is open, then people can travel to Canada and visit Canada, and of course immigrate to Canada. No specific date from the government, considering that we are also facing many problems and issues in other countries in the world. But I think by the end of 2021, we should see, unless something exceptional happens, we should see some normalcy in terms of immigration to Canada. But so far, the focus is on people who are inside Canada. For example, the last draw of express entry only invited people under Canadian experience class. The reason that they did that, because 90% of applicants under Canadian experience class live inside Canada. And that's why they did that. With federal skilled workers, because the situation is different and majority of FSW applicants, they are outside Canada, they have decided not to invite them. Right now, as we speak, the CRS score for Canadian experience class is only 400. And that's because they are inviting Canadian experience class only. So that's why it's so low. But as we move forward and they invite federal skilled workers, we will see a hike in terms of CRS score. We'll probably see CRS scores well over 475, at least for the first couple of rounds. But if they start inviting federal skilled workers regularly, we will see a drop in the CRS score. And the reason that we'll see a drop is because next year, the government is going to bring 435,000 immigrants to Canada. And they cannot find all those immigrants from inside Canada unless they make changes to their policies. And because of that, many of the applicants will come from outside Canada. That's what's going on so far. But in terms of the news, some of the provinces are still inviting people to immigrate to Canada, and that's why express entry covers PNP applicants as well. We see some invitations, especially from Saskatchewan, from Manitoba, from British Columbia, from Ontario. These are the provinces that are most active in terms of inviting immigrants to their province to become permanent residents. So before I continue talking about other stuff, there are a bunch of questions. Let me answer those questions, and then we go from there. So Rochelle, good morning. Good morning, Rochelle. I have a question. What is the latest update for spousal sponsorship PR applications? Thank you. So you probably are aware that the government promised to expedite processing the sponsorship applications, and they actually increased their workforce by 66%, or at least that's what they said, to expedite processing the applications. And in fact, we saw some good movements in terms of processing spousal applications in winter of 2021. Many of my clients, they either received their passport request or their applications were finalized. However, that changed gradually because of again, another hike in the number of coronavirus cases inside Canada and outside Canada. And for example, in Ontario, which CPC Mississauga is located, and CPC Mississauga deals with inside Canada spousal applications, we are in a lockdown till May 20th, and it's very likely that they will extend lockdown beyond May 20th. And because of that, CPC Mississauga is pretty much not working anymore. And I submitted an application, for example, in February, and we just received a temporary file number for that application, but no progress in terms of processing that application. With Central Intake Office in Sydney, Nova Scotia, that deals with outside Canada spousal cases, we had actually very good progress. I had cases that we submitted, for example, in November, and the sponsor was approved in February, and we were in the process of, they basically sent the application to Colombia. My clients were from Colombia. But right now, again, we have a surge in the number of coronavirus cases in Nova Scotia, and that means that unfortunately, with Nova Scotia being hit again by another wave of coronavirus, we will see that Central Intake Office will slow down in terms of processing applications. And also for outside Canada cases, it depends which country you're coming from, but some of the visa offices outside Canada, they either not working or they only deal with essential situations and they do not process regular applications. So that's where we are at in terms of spousal sponsorship applications. They are trying to process them as quickly as possible, but unfortunately, because of some hurdles that they exist, you need to expect delay. So thinking that the application will be processed under 12 months is a stretch for most applicants. I would say majority of applications will be processed more than 12 months. So, but we have to wait and see. So Atul says, hello Atul, good to see you here. Andy is here. Good morning, Andy. And Atul says, also police clearance certificate is needed for all. That's correct. Police clearance. So basically, every person who travels to Canada, immigrates to Canada, wants to study in Canada, or any kind of interaction with that involves in entering Canada, immigration authorities might make sure that this person is not inadmissible to Canada. And police clearance tells the immigration authorities whether you are inadmissible on the basis of basically criminal history. So that's why a police certificate becomes a part of application. Having said that, in certain situations, the immigration authorities do not persist on police certificates. For example, when you are applying for temporary resident visa or work permits or many study permits, and also for temporary resident visa. If for most nationalities, if you do not submit your police certificate upfront, the immigration authorities will not ask you to submit police clearance. But if you do submit your police certificate upfront, then it's just an assurance to the immigration authorities that you have a clean record, and they shouldn't be worried about your behavior when you are in Canada. Even when you are applying for temporary resident visa, think about that. The main reason that they refuse temporary resident visa applications is under Section 179 sub B of the regulations, which says that this person, by the end of their stay, they will leave Canada. And of course, to prove that you will leave Canada by the end of your stay, one item on the list is to show that you have good character. And police clearance could contribute to your good character. So despite the fact that police clearance is not necessary, and for sure, police clearance is not a decisive element under Section 179B, submitting a clean record will also convince the officer that you have good character, and they will be a little bit less likely to refuse the application. So if you go back to your question, it is not mandatory. Police clearance is not mandatory for every single application that you think, but I highly recommend it for every single application, because even if it is not mandatory, it shows that you have a clean record and you have good character. So that's why whoever is my client, I will recommend to them to get their police certificate from every country that they lived since the age of 18 years old for at least 6 months. So if you have just visited a country, it's okay. But if you have lived in any country for more than 6 months, I always recommend my clients to provide police clearance from those countries. In terms of spousal sponsorship applications, they do not request police certificate for every country that is spent 6 months, but they recommend police certificate from every country that you spent most of your adulthood living in that country. Now, again, would it hurt if you also provide police clearance from other countries? Of course not, but it's not mandatory. Okay, I hope I answered your question. So Rupesh says, good morning, Rupesh. So Alfred Fiagby, hello, Alfred from Ghana. Happy to be here on this live. Happy to see you here, Alfred. Mahi Channel, hello, any update about HCCP? What do you mean by HCCP? Could you elaborate? Okay, thank you, Mahi. Okay. So by HCCP, you mean the home caregivers. Thank you very much for bringing that up. So for home caregivers, actually, unfortunately, the cap has reached. So if you recall, for the home caregiver program, we have two streams. Caregiver settler. Let me just bring up the statistics. Where is it? Caregiver pilot. Okay, so we have two streams. One stream is home child care provider, which is NOC code 4411. The other one is home support worker, which is NOC code 4412. So the cap for NOC 4411 or home child care provider was 2,750 applicants. And the government actually received 2,750 applicants for this year. So the cap has reached, and they won't accept new applications under home child care provider. But if you're applying under home support worker, the cap has not reached, and you may apply. In terms of the processing, we have a backlog of 1,500 applications that they have just submitted their first application. The government has promised to finish, put an end to that backlog by the end of June. So they promised that by the end of June, the backlog on those 1,500 applications will be zero, and all of those will be processed. We also have another backlog, and that backlog is 6,000 applications for permanent residents under this program. Again, the government has promised to end that backlog by the end of this year. So hopefully we will see some movement on HCCCP. Okay, so the next question, what is the latest news for the spousal sponsorship PR application inside Canada? Thank you. Again, as I explained that, but just briefly, inside Canada applications, if your application is stuck in CPC Mississauga, unfortunately, CPC Mississauga is almost closed because of the lockdown in Ontario. So the processing has slowed down significantly in CPC Mississauga, and because inside Canada cases are being processed initially, at least by CPC Mississauga, they will be very slow unless they transferred your application to Ottawa or Etobicoke or another location. You may see some movements. Yeah, so my medical results has been submitted on February 2021. Still waiting, thanks. So I cannot comment on your specific case, but generally speaking, if you just gave medical, don't worry about it. It's nothing has been delayed yet for you. I mean, typically it takes 1 to 1.5 years for them to process an application. So for somebody who has given their medical in February 2021, you probably submitted your application in October or November last year. And if that's the case, then you shouldn't, by default, I mean, you shouldn't see results sooner than early 2022. But your specific case could be different, and I cannot comment on that specific case. So Alfred says, with regards to the express entry financial proof requirements, can you have someone else provide a proof of funds on your behalf? So the simple answer to this question is no, because they want to see that you are financially sound. And if somebody else is providing money for you, then you are not so financially sound. So it's the opposite of what you are trying to prove to them. So keep that in mind, that when you're applying under express entry, there are 3 streams. And the financial requirements, or the basically the minimum money that you need to have access to, or the settlement funds, are different. So if you are applying under the federal skilled worker class, then you only need to show that you have settlement funds, and settlement funds is 6 months LICO based on the number of family members that you have. But generally speaking, if you are a federal skilled worker, you only need to show settlement funds if you do not have a valid job offer. So if you already have a valid job offer, and that job offer is registered under the express entry system, they accepted that this is a valid offer, then there is no need for settlement funds. But if you don't have a job offer under federal skilled worker class, then you definitely need to show settlement funds. For example, for one person, it's about roughly $13,000. And if you have more family members, that amount increases. In terms of, and if you look up LICO 2020 or 2021, doesn't matter. My article is #1 on the list on Google. You can read that. I have a table. It shows the amount of settlement funds. If you are applying under Canadian experience class, then there is no need to show settlement funds. Although they ask for your bank account statement, but you are exempt from the requirements of settlement funds. So you just don't need that. Obviously, if you show settlement funds, that's amazing. That's why I always ask my Canadian experience class clients to show that they have settlement funds anyways, despite the fact that it's not necessary. If you're applying under Federal Skilled Trades class or FSTC or FST, then it's just like Federal Skilled Worker class. It means that if you have a job offer or two job offers, because in FSTC you could have job offers from two employers. If you have valid job offers and those job offers are registered with under the Express Entry system, then you do not need to show settlement funds. But if you don't have job offer, then you need to show settlement funds. But you cannot use another person's money to show that you have money. It's not going to work like that. Okay, so Rupesh says, I have managed to substantially reduce plastic wastage of spoons and forks and developed a prototype for business venture in any suitable province with assistance from accelerations or incubators. So I assume that, Rupesh, you are asking about a potential immigration option because of your innovation. So obviously, I cannot comment on the specifics of your case because I'm not married. I missed your earlier question. Your earlier question is good morning, hello, and that's it. So maybe you posted your earlier question in my previous live that we disconnected because I recreated the live. But anyways, I cannot offer advice on a live session for a specific case because you need to book an appointment with me. I will review your case. And in case of those people who want to invest in Canada, it goes beyond just a session with me. We actually connect those people with our business development manager as well. He's an MBA and he will review your case as well. So two people, sometimes three people review your cases at our end to see if there is a viability in terms of immigration to Canada or getting a work permit or those things. But I don't know what was your first question, but if your question, generally speaking, is about investment in Canada, one generic thing that I can say is that anything that somehow is related to the environment becomes a sensitive option in Canada. So people get excited that they have something that it could affect the environment in a positive way. But as soon as it comes to Canada, it encounters many red tapes and hurdles because they want to make sure that it will not hurt the environment. So that's a very sensitive topic. Several organizations at different level deal with that at the level of the city, at the level of the province, at the level of the federal government. And satisfying all of those sometimes becomes a huge undertaking. But that's a very generic answer to this question. If you want to immigrate to Canada or work in Canada based on your idea, the first step for you would be to book an appointment with me. I will review your case. I will talk to you about it, and we will explore different options. And if I think that there is a chance that you could proceed, I will introduce you to our business development manager. He will interview you as well. He provides us with a report, and then we decide how to move forward. So Atul, only the main applicant, Indian citizen or a spouse and children, have to go through the medical examination for C11 work permit. If yes, then should we do it before submitting the application? So Atul, generally speaking, for work permit applications, a medical examination is not mandatory. Okay, so nobody has to go through medical examination. However, if you don't give medical examination, generally speaking, you are not able to work in two areas. One area is to work at for example, primary school or preschool or high school. So in other words, have direct contact with minor children based on your work. The second one is that you cannot work in the healthcare sector. So if the work permit is somehow related to the healthcare or to children, then that person needs to go through medical examination. Otherwise, medical examination is not mandatory. However, having said that, just like for the police certificate, medical examination has its own benefits. It shows that you are not medically inadmissible to Canada. Also, the immigration officers may refer to Section 16 of the Act and request medical examination anyways from people, and they do it from time to time. Also, if you do medical examination upfront, other than showing that you are in good health, although medical examination has nothing to do with coronavirus, but if you are a healthy person, the officer is less worried about you coming to Canada. So it has, generally speaking, it has a positive mental effect on the officers. They feel more comfortable with somebody who has gone through medical examination, although it's not mandatory for them. It's also, as I mentioned, it shows that the person is not medically inadmissible, and it prevents further delays in case the officer decides to do medical examination. Now, in case of work permit, for children, we normally apply for a study permit for them, and any person from India who wants to study in Canada for more than 6 months, they need to go through medical examination. So medical examination becomes a must if your children are applying for a study permit. And also keep that in mind that this is called upfront medical examination. So you don't need to wait for the immigration authorities to do to send you the medical examination forms. You just simply go to a panel physician, and the panel physician will run the medical examination for you, and they will generate a report, send it directly to the immigration authorities. And when they are reviewing your application, obviously your immigration consultant or yourself, you will inform the immigration authorities. It depends. If you are doing it yourself, then you do it yourself. If not, then your immigration consultant will inform the authorities that you have done your medical examination as well. So to wrap it up, for a study permit from India, it's almost always mandatory to go through medical examination. For work permit, it is not mandatory, but I highly advise it. And for work permit and study permit, you don't need to wait for the immigration officer to request a medical examination. You just go through upfront medical examination by referring to a panel physician. So that panel physician is a physician that is approved by IRCC to run medical examinations. I hope I answered your question. So the next question is from Sean Lee. Good morning, Sean Lee. So Sean says, good morning, Mr. Parsai. On the police certificate, some agents require the application to submit Canada police certificate for PR application. What's your view on this? So generally speaking, Canadian police certificate is not necessary. And the simple reason for that is that IRCC has direct access to RCMP database. So basically, if you apply for a medical examination, so if you if you submit a police certificate from Canada, it's a redundant thing. I mean, you can, but you are basically telling them what they already know. So the reason that they are not asking for police certificate from Canada is not because they love people who are inside Canada, because IRCC already has access to RCMP database. So they look you up and they find out whether you have issues with RCMP or not. That's why they don't ask for it. Now, if somebody wants to take a police certificate from Canada and submit it with their application, nobody say why you did that, but it's just a useless thing. I hope this answers your question. Obviously, there might be situations that IRCC specifically requests a police certificate from Canada. And if they do so, you have to obey their request. That's you cannot say, oh yeah, I'm in Canada, I'm not going to do it. But you yourself voluntarily doing it, it's useless. As I mentioned, it's because IRCC already have access to RCMP database, and they know about people. So it's very unlikely they ever request police certificate from Canada. I hope I answered your question. So do I need a lawyer to open a corporation in Canada? That's a question by Mr. Will. So that's outside my area of practice. But what I can tell you, because we have helped more than 300 corporations take shape in Canada. In most cases, we use the services of an accountant to assist the person to register the business in Canada. Their accountants have limited powers, and so they only can register, or they have the expertise to register a business if that business has a very simple structure. But accountants do not have the knowledge base to create the structure of a business. And that's why, as soon as you are going in the direction of a more complex kind of business, then you definitely need to get help from a lawyer, or otherwise you may screw up. It's a very complicated process for us to do it. I have registered, for my own sake, I have registered some businesses in Canada in the past, and every time that the business was a complex structure business, I always hired a lawyer, and I also recommend that for structures that are more complex. For example, when you have multiple partners, when you want to make sure that, for example, what percentage of this business is common shares, what percentage is preferred shares, who has the preferred shares, who has the common shares, and you want to define those things, then it is in your best interest to hire a lawyer to help you with the registration of that kind of business. And in fact, in those situations, you will end up hiring both a lawyer and accountant, and it becomes a very expensive process. But if the structure of the business is very simple, and also we are talking about one owner or at most two owners, those kind of situations, and there are no complexities, any issues with the copyright or those kind of things, then maybe an accountant could just register the business for you, or maybe you can do it yourself. But for more complex ones, I highly recommend hiring a lawyer. So the next question is from Menino Gomez. What are other ways someone can immigrate if they don't have sufficient funds to show? So there are alternatives for people who do not have sufficient funds. Obviously, the alternatives are extremely limited, because when you look at the immigration law, the Section 12 of the Immigration Act divides people into three major groups. So group number one is family reunification. So you're immigrating because of you are related to a family member here in Canada, and that person sponsors you. But the other question, Anil, I haven't reached your question yet. So the next one is the economic immigration. And when you are under economic immigration, it means that you are immigrating because you can economically establish yourself in Canada. So if you have financial issues, then probably you cannot economically establish yourself in Canada. And it makes it so difficult for you to be able to immigrate to Canada. And about 55 to 60% of all the immigrants to Canada, sometimes 65% of all the immigrants to Canada, they are under economic class. And of course, we have also a small portion of immigrants to Canada that they file under refugee. So obviously, for refugee cases, we don't really need financial requirements from the person. Again, for sponsor applications, for the foreign national, the financial requirements are very limited. But for economic immigration, if you have financial issues, it's very unlikely unless you have a job offer, a very good job offer in Canada, and based on that, they limit you. And honestly, I cannot give you specifics because I don't know the specifics of your case. But generally speaking, yes, that's how it works. So this is now next question is Anel. So Anel says, hi, for C11 work permit, do we need a running company doing sales or just a business plan will do it? And for how many years I will get the work permit? So the simple answer to your question is that when you're applying under C11, there are three parameters that the officer looks at them. Number one is that you have a plan that is viable, it's doable, and it will contribute to Canadian economy. So that's number one. Number two, you are the best person to run that plan. And that based on your financial situation, your previous experience, your education, your success stories, whatever, a combination of all of these to convince them that you are the one person who can run that plan. And the third one is that you have taken some steps to run that plan. And those steps, there is no list that I can tell you this is the must list, with one exception. And the only there are actually two exceptions. You definitely must have a detailed business plan, and you definitely must own a business in Canada and own at least 50% of that business. So either it's a startup, you just recently registered a business, or it could be an existing business that you purchase at least 50% voting shares of that business. So these are the requirements. Now, in terms of whether that business must be active or not, obviously, if the business is active and it's working, it's more convincing to the immigration officer. But as I mentioned, I don't have a list of things that say these are the things that you must have, with the exception of those two. The activities of the business obviously is more convincing to the officer than a business that is completely non-active. So the quick answer to your question is better that the business is running, but it's not a must. Okay. But again, you need also to look at the quality of the whole package. It's not just the business itself. There are so many other elements that they take into account. And I've seen this over and over again in the past because I accepted my first client under C11 in November 2017. And I've had clients from several countries so far. I have had clients from Iran, from India, from Pakistan, from the United States of America, from France, from where else? From Colombia, from Mexico, from Chile, from Uruguay, from Italy, from Romania, and I'm pretty sure I dropped some of the countries. And if I dropped your country, I'm sorry. But these are, at least I think I've had clients from 11 or 12 different countries so far. And we have received feedback from many different visa offices, from the visa office in Bogota, from visa office in Ankara, New Delhi, Warsaw, Islamabad, you name it. And then, of course, collectively, every time we received any feedback, we analyzed those feedbacks, and then we decided what would be the best course of action. So the person who is in front of you is a person who has 3.5 years of experience in the field of IMPC 11, with tens of ATIP requests that we submitted, and the information that we collected, and the email correspondences that we had. And based on that, we prepared the applications, not just based on, these are the requirements posted on IRCC website. Okay, so I hope I answered your question, Anil. So Rupesh, please inform consultation fees for half an hour or any COVID discount applicant. Actually, we do have COVID discount. So if you send a request to info@settler.ca, we will send you a discount code. So by default, my consultation session is $200 for half an hour. And believe me, you spend $200, but you save a ton of money down the road by understanding your correct options and preventing it from, overspending. And you have no obligations to sign up with us after the consultation fee paid and the consultation session is done. But if you decide to hire us, then we will give you a discount based on that $200 that you paid. But if you want discount over that $200, you need to send an email to info@settler.ca or fill out one of our forms and request consultation session, and we will send you the discount coupon. So hello, good guy. Oh, hello, Head Flow. I hope you're well. Well, I would like to ask you, does Canada will start hosting immigration this year? Thanks. Canada has never stopped accepting immigrations. In fact, this year, they're still very hopeful that they will accept 401,000 applicants this year. Last year, we had a drop, so it never stopped, but we had a drop. Instead of accepting 350,000 or so, we unfortunately we could only accept, I think we don't have the statistics yet, but we probably accepted around 200,000 applications. And the reason that it dropped, it was because of the COVID-19 situation and closure of the borders and etc. But Canada has not stopped it. They are actually continuing accepting clients, and this year we'll probably see we reach maybe not exactly 400,000, but we will probably will pass 300,000 for sure. So it's not over, it's there. So Anil, you missed the question, so I think I answered this. Mr. Well, can I use any type of corporation for immigration in Canada? So generally speaking, IRCC does not ask any what is the type of your corporation, okay? So that's the generic. And I have an article, Mr. Well, about this. So let me, actually, if you just look up on Google, register a business for immigration to Canada, you will see my article on the first page. But here is the link. Please read that, because many of the questions that you have in mind, you can find the answers on those. But generally speaking, IRCC doesn't care about what kind of business you register. What they do care about are two things. Number one is that at least 50% of the business belongs to the C11 applicant. Number two is that the business has a CRA number. And the reason that we want the CRA number, because we need to create an employer portal. And without a CRA number, you cannot create an employer portal. So that would be the only things that I can think of that IRCC care about. They don't really care about the specific, because they are not in the business of business. They are in the business of immigration. It's just that they want to make sure that you are serious about doing business in Canada. So in other words, registration of the business as part, and I know at least in Iranian culture, they sell this as if you purchase a business in Canada or you start a business in Canada, and because of that, you receive a work permit. That's not the case. The case is that you are a person that in the context of business contribute to the Canadian economy. And of course, as part of what you are doing is registering a business in Canada. How can you say that I'm a business owner without having a business? So that's why they say you have to register a business. But in terms of the specifics of that business, as I mentioned, they only care about the CRA number and care about the employer, the 50% share thing. Can I incorporate a business in Quebec with 100% ownership, or I need a Canadian director? Again, if you refer to my article, I have actually a list of residency requirements in every different province in Canada. And in terms of Quebec, Quebec does not have residency requirements. So simply put, it means that you could basically I just yeah, it looks like it. So I've because I'm almost all of my clients are outside Quebec. Actually, all of my clients are, not almost. So I don't have practical hands-on experience with Quebec, but at least based on the research that I've done, Quebec does not ask you for a resident. Having said that, instead of asking me, ask them. That's the easiest way to move forward. If you ask them, they will tell you if residency is required or not. So the next question is, and we have 10 minutes left. How long is CCCOPR taking these days after ITA? That's actually, this question is by Priti Panwar. So Priti, thank you very much for bringing that question, because people think that, and I know that it's been advertised that, apply under express entry and your application will be processed in less than 6 months. Guess what? It's not going to happen. Even for Canadian experience class cases, it takes a very long time nowadays to process their application. Even before COVID-19, majority of my clients were processed after 6 months. Actually, for majority of my clients, the processing time was around 12 months, 10 to 12 months under express entry. I've had cases that it even stretched over 12 months, and it was 14 months, 16 months. In one case, I had a case that it was actually processed after, I think it was 20 months. But that was an exceptional situation. Majority of express entry applications, they are processed around 12 months mark. Most of those applications that are processed under 6 months are the applications that get refused. So in other words, IRCC refuses a ton of applications before 6 months, and that's how they bring down the average processing time. But for an actual application that is being approved, they are rarely being approved under 6 months. I've had cases that they were approved under 6 months, but they are not the majority. The majority are around 12 months. Now, because of COVID-19, even under Canadian experience class, it takes more than 12 months. I have a client that I submitted their application, I think last April, and she's Francophone. Her case is a very strong case. And still, as we speak today, she has not received her COPR yet. So I have actually most of my express entry clients since last year, they have not received their permanent residence. I had one case from Venezuela that he was actually received his permanent residence in less than 6 months. But for those of you who don't know, Venezuelans, there are special treatments for Venezuelans because of this fiasco of their passports. So they kind of wanted to process the application before the expiry of his passport because he's not capable to extend his passport. Of course, we have certain measures for extending passports for Venezuelans that despite that you don't have a valid passport, they may issue the permanent residency for you. But, the officer thought that it's better to issue the visa before the passport expires, and that's what they did. But with the exception of my Venezuelan clients during COVID-19, my CEC express entry clients applications, they have either reached the 12 months mark or they have passed the 12 months mark. So Rupesh says, many thanks, I'll book consultation. Thank you very much for your trust. So Hossein Iranshai, hello Hossein, good to see you here. Why is car insurance so expensive in Canada? First of all, I'm an immigration consultant, and when it comes to car insurance, I'm a victim like anybody else. But generally speaking, no, that's not true. So it depends on which province you live in. So if you are, for example, if you live in Quebec or in British Columbia, we have a province-wide uh, insurance policy for everybody who lives in that province. And insurance is actually very cheap. I mean, for most people, they end up paying less than $50 per month to cover their cars. So in those provinces, the insurance are very cheap. But in some other provinces, and I'm not aware of all the provinces, but for example, in Ontario, it's extremely expensive. Right? I mean, you may end up paying $200 per month or even more to insure your car. Having said that, the insurance in Ontario is like a five-star hotel. It means that the coverage is amazing. Of course, you are covered in North America, so you can travel freely to the United States or Mexico, and still your car is insured. And there are some other benefits for those expensive insurances, like the body of your car is insured. If you get involved in an accident, in most of those insurances, your insurance premium will not go higher just because of one incident. And again, it depends on the package that you purchase. But at the end of the day, that's true about Ontario, that the insurance is ridiculously expensive, and nobody can deny it. I mean, I have received good discount because I was a student at York University. I managed to get a discount rate through my university when I was doing my master's degree. By the way, I finished my master's. Now I hold two master's degree. But I finished my master in laws recently. But while I was a student, I managed to get a discount. But generally speaking, you're right. Unfortunately, it's very expensive. Okay, so 5 minutes left. Please do explain about ARC application, Mr. Al. So that's a question by Mr. Future. So basically, very briefly, of course, I have an article about ARC, and while I'm talking to you, I will look it up and I will share the link with you. But very quickly, if you receive a removal order from Canada, okay, so not everybody needs to apply for ARC. If you receive a removal order from Canada and they remove you from Canada, or your removal order is enforceable and you want to remain in Canada or return to Canada, then in that situation, you could apply for an authorization to return to Canada. And then if they approve you, you may go back to Canada. We don't need an ARC application for departure orders. We do need ARC application for exclusion orders if the duration for exclusion order is not over. For most exclusion orders, the duration is 12 months. For exclusion orders because of misrepresentation is 60 months. In those situations, if you want to come back before 12 months or before 60 months, you need to apply for an authorization to return to Canada. And if you are basically have received a deportation order, then unfortunately you always have to apply for an authorization to return to Canada. ARC is only to address the removal order. Obviously, whatever the underlying issue was, you need to address it separately. So sometimes you need to combine ARC application with a TRP application. Sometimes you need to combine it with a rehabilitation application. Sometimes you need to combine it with an immigration application. For example, I recently submitted an ARC application for one of my clients who was being sponsored by his spouse to Canada. So the ARC application was actually along with a record suspension because the offenses were inside Canada. So we submitted the record suspension, we submitted the ARC application, we submitted the spousal application at the same time. So that's a very generic thing, but at the end of the day, they want to make sure that the person who is returning to Canada, their return to Canada justifies the reasons for removal order. But as I mentioned, you also need to address the underlying issues. For example, for somebody who is criminally inadmissible to Canada, they cannot just apply for an ARC application and come back to Canada. They also need to submit a rehabilitation application or a TRP application or deemed rehabilitation or record suspension, depending on the case. And it's a very complex process, by the way. So if you want to apply for ARC, make sure that you hire somebody who is experienced in that field and they know how to address the issues. Okay, so we're done. We're already 1 hour, and I have a consultation session almost right after this session. So I have to wrap this up, but thank you very much. So Martin, so that's very last question, okay? So Martin says, can you take someone you met on Tinder to Canada for PR? So the simple answer is yes, but it's a lot more complex than that, because they want to make sure that their relationship is genuine, and whether it is common law relationship, a spousal relationship. In the past, we had many refusals for online dating. It was quite prevalent, but at the same time, the online dating has become so common that the immigration authorities are less sensitive comparing to the past. And that's why if somebody wants to sponsor their loved ones because they met over Tinder and then they got married, or they got involved in common law relationship, then they might be able to sponsor themselves. But if this is a case that you are facing, make sure to book an appointment with me or somebody who is an expert in the field of spousal sponsorship. I have dealt with many complex cases under spousal sponsorship. Get in touch with me, book an appointment, let me review your case, because this is a sensitive matter and you don't want to go through this and eventually get a refusal. So can you get an exclusion order? How get you return? So that's Conroy's question. So please don't ask me more questions. I will come back, but this is the last one I will answer. So the simple answer is that if somebody receives an exclusion order and they want to come back, they need to apply for coming back. So that application could be a work permit application, study permit application, temporary resident visa, or maybe an immigration application. However, they also need to include authorization to return to Canada application if they are applying within the duration that the exclusion order is in effect. And the combination of both applications, if both applications are approved, then you can return to Canada based on the application that has been approved. Thank you very much for watching this live session. Sorry about technical issues that we faced earlier. My name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I have 10 years of experience as an immigration consultant. Now it's 10 and a half years almost. And also I teach advanced courses and immigration diploma courses at Ashton College. I'm the author of the bestseller book, 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada. Please support me by purchasing this book. By the way, hopefully this book will be available in hardcover very soon. And also follow our channel, subscribe to our channel, follow it, enable notifications, share our videos. I've been very busy recently. I have so many court cases coming up in the upcoming weeks, and at the same time, I teach 2 courses at Ashton College. So I haven't been able to produce videos in the past 2 weeks, but I promise I will produce more videos in the near future. My book is being sold through Amazon, so unfortunately I cannot offer discount. Whatever discount you receive is through Amazon, but it's fairly cheap. I mean, this one is I think it's $18.88, and the Kindle version is only $6 something, so it's not that expensive. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next week, Sunday, 10 a.m. live on YouTube. If you know Persian or Farsi language, I also go live every Friday at 10 a.m. on Instagram. So see you there as well. Bye now.